Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. I'm Coach Kyle here, and we have a very special guest. His name is Vinny, and today we're going to be talking about pain. Sorry,
That's
I'm
the
trying to
only
make
way
it
to say it.
as dramatic as possible, right?
Yeah,
Pain.
yeah,
But Vinny is, are you CEO, owner of the Pain Academy?
both.
CEO, founder, owner,
Yeah,
also
we're
like
wearing many hats over here.
chief janitorial staff, usually. That's the owner show.
Also that too. Podcast prepper as well.
There you go. So, Vinny, why don't we start off by kind of getting into your background, your story, and how you got into the Pain Academy.
Yeah, so I'll start. I think context is probably going to be the easiest way into this. I didn't really care about movement until I just couldn't. I was a former 8-time All-American Division I collegiate athlete, over 30-something Colorado State records for swimming, swam competitively in Division I school. And, I kind of had this experience as a young man that I could always push my body and it always did well. And that is the nature of a performance, high-performing elite athlete. And a lot of that came crashing down in a life-changing injury when I broke my back in a surfing accident. So I went from being this, young, strong, capable man, never really having to deal with injuries. Swimming isn't really a injurious sport outside of just some overuse shoulder stuff. It's not contact. We're not really hurting ourselves in the pool, wearing Speedos going up and down these lanes. And so I never really had dealt with significant adversity until my accident. And as I was saying, I went from this, young man who could push my body and get everything out of it to, man, I can't even stand up. I can't even go up and down stairs. Walking into any room, I remember for years, it was just immediately scanning for where can I take a break? Where can I get off my legs? And where can I just sit and relax? Because pain was absolutely debilitating. So I, in my early 20s, spent almost close to 10 full years in just chronic disability and significant discomfort. As much as I'd love to say, I started getting into health and wellness to help people and it's altruistic. Man, I got into it to help myself because life was miserable for me. So this was like, is this a means to an end with my own body? And that's where all this stuff started.
Yeah, I mean that's a great story. I have a very similar one actually. I was a collegiate athlete rowing,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and it was actually the rowing training, not the rowing itself, that did it to me. I was deadlifting, and I was in study abroad, and I converted the pounds to kilos wrong. Ended up doing like 425 for 6 reps, no belt, above my 1 rep max at the time.
Wow.
And that was it for my back. Herniated 2 discs, clear herniation right through the middle. Had neck herniations after that. And I get you. I feel it because I, like you, went from like super strong, super capable to I can't get out of bed today.
Yeah.
Like I literally was like doing some light landscaping work months after this and collapsed, couldn't move, and I had my friend literally drag me in the house and throw me on the couch. Like, so I feel your pain, if you will.
Yeah.
And before we dive in deeper, because I really want to know how you fixed it, because I had my approach, but I want to hear yours. I just have to call out that you are the first guest that has had a bigger beard and longer hair than I have. So
I felt so at
congratulations.
home when I saw your social media. I'm like, oh, this guy gets it. Okay, we're of alike qualities.
I shaved my hair every like 2 or 3 years and let it grow back out. Every time I shaved it, my wife is like, "Don't ever do
Every time,
it."
every
Every
single
time.
time. Yeah,
She's like,
and we forget, and then we feel like we need to go cleanse and clear it out, but then it just goes right back to like, why did I do this immediately right after? So I
every
get it, man.
time. So I'm committing to long from here on.
Yeah, good. I match that commitment.
So how did you work on fixing your back? And I'd love a little bit more detail if you're willing. Like you say broke your back. Is this like a vertebral fracture? Is this like a true spinal cord like full on break? Is this herniation? Like what are we talking?
Yeah, thank God it was not a spinal cord injury. It was an acute injury, so it's a T12 fracture, multiple herniations. I believe it was the T11, T12, L1, and L2 junction where there were herniations. So I had 3 separate herniations going on at the same time. The blunt force impact trauma of the rock hitting my back, it created so much nerve damage that I had peripheral desensitization of the left leg. So I looked down, when I surfaced to grab some air, I looked down, I thought my leg had ripped off. Like I literally just couldn't feel it. What was odd about that is I still had some motor control. So it wasn't just this completely limp thing. I had the ability to move it, but I lost the sensation of touch. So my like proprioception, my awareness, walking was like very insecure. It felt very unsafe because I literally had to watch my leg walk. Otherwise, it didn't feel like it was there. But that was short lived. Within a few days, I started to get some sensory control or sensory feedback of the left leg. But, as you know, it's one injury turns into a dozen misfires everywhere. And it was like playing whack-a-mole after that injury. Um, from the blunt force impact, and I don't have x-rays to confirm this, but I never tested positive for scoliosis in any of the little fielding studies that they do on kids in puberty. I made it through, part of the whole Division I get a scholarship process is going through a movement health screening to see if there's any possible, hey, do we want to invest this much money into this athlete? And scoliosis was never a thing in those screenings. And then the X-ray and MRI immediately after that break showed a 21-degree lateral shift in the lower back. So it was almost like a functional case of scoliosis from the impact trauma. The nerve seized up so much on the left side that it just created this incredible imbalance in my lower back.
Yeah, man, that's brutal. I
Yeah.
feel you. I mean, it's crazy to have just loss of the motor control or so much nerve pain that you literally can't get up. I've been there.
Yeah.
So like Pain Academy, right? You have this pain to passion story. This is very common with people who work in the health space. Um, so how did you go about learning or trying to fix the problem, and what ended up doing it for you?
Yeah. So my story from here is probably a lot like most people, which is, well, what do you do when you're in pain? You go see the pain specialist, you go see the back experts, you get first, second, third, fourth opinions, you try PT, if you're bold enough, you might go to a chiropractor and trust your spine with them. I tried PT, I tried acupuncture, I tried all of these modalities, even Rolfing, anything to target this area. And, probably like most people, it's like sometimes these things help, sometimes they bring relief, sometimes they don't. Your healing is entirely dependent on your ability to continue paying for therapy. And man, this was like a couple years after my break, and I was still frantically searching for pain answers. I'm severely going into debt. My ability to work was very minimal. This did not seem like a viable option. And probably like most people, when you go see a specialist in the lower back and they put you on the PT protocol, this is what we do for a herniated disc. And you do the protocol and it doesn't work and the pain gets worse. It starts to really kind of put you into this category of, I'm broken, man. Nothing's going to work for me. And it took me a while to understand there were two problems, well, more than two, but we're going to make this very, very succinct because I want this to be relatable. There were two problems that were going on in my body at the same time. Number one was the original dysfunction. So I had this original injury that felt like it wasn't healing, which we'll get into in a minute. And then number two, I had all of these weird ways that I learned how to move, which everybody does. It's compensation. It's your body's brilliant mechanism so you don't have to feel pain as much, right? If you go and roll or sprain an ankle, you're going to naturally shift weight to the other side to just survive and get through life. The problem with being in the pain or receiving such a severe traumatic injury like I had was I was compensating for years. And so I had, putting weight on my left side felt so insecure. My right leg dominated. And when you dominate most of your weight on one leg, you unilaterally asymmetrically train the rest of your body. One side of your hip gets tight, one side of your back gets tight, the opposing shoulder gets tight, and you create this like biomechanical storm around the actual underlying injury. So anytime I would try to go treat the dysfunction, whether it be through targeted acute PT, rehab, chiropractic, maybe we'd get the pain to go better. or feel better, but nothing was resolving the body around the injury that had developed compensation patterns for years. So it was like one thing got better, one thing got worse. Pain shifted and bounced around. And it wasn't until I actually addressed both simultaneously that meaningful progress started to actually happen. I had to learn how to calm down the compensatory mechanisms and target the root cause dysfunction, which was a complete disruption of how my hips, pelvis, and lower back all interacted with each other. And it wasn't until I really took a step back, I stopped chasing the area that hurt, and I started looking at my entire body. Vinny, who's this guy attacked? Like, what is going on here on an every load joint level? Ankles, knees, hips, pelvis, spine, shoulders. Did I really start to see, well, this is not a lower back problem. This is my movement is out of whack. My body is screwed problem. And that was the level I had to meet my body to actually make any meaningful progress on this.
Yeah, that's, I think, very, very profound. I think is really the answer for a lot of these very traumatic injuries that don't heal up in, a few weeks, a few months. It causes these years of movement patterns that are just not how we're supposed to move. A couple notes on the story. I just want to resonate with your trek through other doctors and lower back specialists and pain specialists and things like that. I went to a pain specialist as part of my journey, and he said, "You don't have a herniated disc, even though it was clear on the imaging. You have depression, so I'm going to prescribe you depression meds." Yeah, he said, "You don't have a herniated disc, even though the imaging clearly showed that. You have depression." So he prescribed me depression pills. The pain management doctor, with my MRI report from the radiologist that says multiple herniations, said, "You don't have a herniated disc. You have depression." Gave me depression pills. Didn't take them, but and then I went to a bunch of lower back specialists, and they gave me the same set of exercises. They were like, "What you got to do is the upward dog type thing."
Just
right?
upward dog your way out of the problem, man. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. Basically, they gave that to me, and it hurt so bad to do the upward dog because they didn't read the MRI report, and the way my disc was herniated was not typical. It was not to one side, it was not to the other. It was clear through the middle, and so what it was actually pinching it worse when I was doing that, and it wasn't moving it back into place. So I very much resonate with the journey through practitioners who kind of give Band-Aid solutions. So
painful, man. And unfortunately, I mean, this is probably the part of the podcast where everybody's going to relate, and I remember 5 years post breaking my back and, limping into another pain management specialist, hoping that they were going to give me something other than another refill of my opioid prescription. And man, I remember the doctor coming in saying, "Your scans show you're healed. There's nothing wrong with you." Dude, I couldn't even sit up as he's giving me this information because the searing back pain. And there is this huge disconnect about, and part of the frustration, which is you go to 10 different people, they're going to give you 10 different answers. This is not like we are not on the same page about what's going on and why. And it blows my mind, the random opinions that everybody has about the problem, just entering it through their own understanding.
Yeah, it is. It is truly, truly mind blowing, like you said. So you told me how you fixed the problem was addressing all of it, right? Compensations, the motor patterns, the shoulder, the hip, the lower back, and the site of the injury. But I mean, practically, how did you do it? Like, what was it? Was it a series of exercises? Was it certain modalities? Was it a combination thereof?
Yeah, so I actually I stumbled upon this method. This was some 5-something years into this journey, and I was given a business card of a posture alignment specialist, which sounds, dude, I don't need better posture. I've got a broken back. Like, fix my back. And upon going into this meeting with a posture alignment specialist, whatever the hell that was, we didn't do any fancy scans. He didn't look at my MRI, didn't look at X-rays, took no readings. He took a photo of my body standing, front, back, left, and right. He had me do a couple simple movement patterns like bending forward, squatting, standing on one leg, and then standing on the other leg. And I sat down with him to review my images. Here I am chasing pain, chasing where I thought the problem was, and rightfully so, given my injury. And here this guy is saying, no, no, let's take a step back and objectively look at what your body's doing. And it was the first time, instead of going deeper and deeper and deeper into the spine in the world of back pain specialists, I saw like a generalist of just, what is that shoulder doing? Why, when you stand on your right leg, does this knee externally rotate so much? Why is your right foot twisted out? Why is the left pelvis higher than the right pelvis? What is going on when you have this like clockwise rotation with your body? So it was the most meaningful assessment because it was not about chasing symptoms. It was about looking at me as a whole. And then we got to treating my body as a whole. It wasn't, let's go, here's an exercise for back pain. It's, hey, let's go into this position. For example, lie on your back, put both legs over a couch and a chair. We're going to put the left side of the body and the right side of the body in the same position at the same time and relax the nervous system so we can start to reduce compensation and then treat dysfunction. Now let's get the ankles to work. Now let's get the knees and the ankles to work. And it was just this simple systemic process, starting from the ground up, sometimes the top down, to restore function with the body. And the most important thing, and I cannot stress this enough, and this was the part that was really like, though this is amazing, is he didn't adjust me. He didn't touch me. There was no manual therapy. It was him showing me how to move again. And I learned in that moment, I got a crash course in, I had been doing passive therapy the whole time. I've just been bringing my body to people, swiping a credit card, hoping that like, oh, a couple grand for like 2 months. Great. Yeah, you're going to fix me. I was missing me. I was missing my own participation in this process. And that's what this posture alignment specialist taught me, was how to actually start learning how to move again. And if I felt better in the studio, in the clinic, I could then go home and do it again and again and again. So this wasn't back pain specific exercises. This was my entire body specific exercises where we're taking it all into consideration. Nothing targeted. I'm talking about general, global. Let's get the system to move better again. And once I stopped chasing the tight muscles, stopped chasing the muscles that are weak, and started looking at my body as movement patterns, flexion, extension, rotation, abduct, things really started to change. And it felt so much mentally lighter, not trying to chase hundreds of individual muscles and isolated functions. And it was exhausting doing that, man. And I did it for years.
Yeah. So that was it. So basically, once you went through the steps, you reset the nervous system, you realign the posture in all the areas. Was that it? You were healed?
I wish. So it helped address the biomechanical, the physical problems, the dysregulation that had happened since the injury and for the 5 years after. Because I didn't find this therapy day one. I had 5 years of compensations, dysfunction, and tension to work through. Posture got better. My movement patterns got better. But dude, I was still hurting. And this is when I went back into the pain management specialist who said, your scans are fine. Your herniation's healed. You don't have a fracture. But I was noticeably getting worse. And so, this is what led me to the next part of this process, which is, what in the hell does the brain have to do with this? Why is it an injury can hurt despite there not being a clear cause of structural damage? And this was me. My nervous system was fried. And this is the biggest thing that people don't understand, which is when you spend years in pain, when you have chronic pain, you link pain and movement in your mind. Every bend forward that hurts, you start to expect bending forward hurts. And even long after the injury heals, you've paired movement and pain. It's the neuroplasticity of the brain that you expect movement to hurt. And this is the part that launched me in a whole different direction, which is, how do we actually unlearn the patterns of alarm, danger, threat, and that you're broken and that you're injured when you spend so long actually reinforcing that idea.
Yeah. Well, if you'll indulge me in a minute, I'll give you my rundown on how I fixed my
Please.
system. And there is actually a big component of what you mentioned, and the remapping, if you will. I used some tech to help me out with the nervous system remapping to configure how the brain was receiving the pain through the movement. I
You
had a
use tech.
combination.
I just fumbled through it myself. So
Yeah,
I'm delighted to hear that there's technology, man. Please
yeah.
enlighten us.
Yeah, so there, so I did a combination of a ton of different things, but the things that really moved the needle were a combination of three separate modalities. One was injections, so I did stem cell injections, both intradiscal and intrafacet injections, in all the herniated discs, multiple rounds, and I've also done injections on all the areas that were picking up pain from compensations as well. Kind of had it all
Just
in
to
one.
pause real quick. Injections of what? PRP?
I did PRP and stem cells, so I've done both. Many rounds, many locations. I've probably had like 400 injections at this point. I think Doc is sick of poking me with needles, but
Are
I
you getting sick to poked with them, or is it just so normalized at this point?
feel like it's kind of normal. And then I go see him, and I'm like, I have like a slight tweak, and he's like, I got you.
Here you go.
Yeah. So that was number one. Number two was a method called Eldoa, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one.
No, I've not heard of it.
But it's a movement pattern in which you create traction, like a traction device at a chiropractor.
Hmm.
Not a big fan of those, by the way.
No, I've only had
Um,
terrible experiences with
yeah,
that.
not a big fan of those, but I am a big fan of this method because what it does is it allows you to strengthen the muscles in between the facets to create traction with your own body and your own muscles. So you can actually learn how to flex the muscles in the spine to actually elongate and get that space back. And they have specific exercises for each disc level. They have specific exercises for the hip, the neck, the whole thing. Very, very difficult. Like you would have never thought that like I would be dripping in sweat after 3 minutes of this neck exercise that I'm doing.
Yeah, those are
But it
my
helped.
favorite. It's the stuff
Yeah,
that looks so simple, but it's wildly impactful.
yeah, it helped a lot. And the third thing was the neuro remapping. So I used a technology called Nuvi by NewFit. And what it does is it has a high frequency setting with electrical muscle stimulation, essentially. And you take it and put it on this high frequency setting, and you move through the plane of motion that is causing the pain. So after you fix the structural damage, like you said, you still have the signaling going on. This helps remap the nervous system that, hey, this is actually a safe movement. We can actually move like this. So I did a lot of that. And then in turn, they also have a setting on that machine that you can strengthen specific muscles. So I did targeted glute med because my glute med was like gone because of all the compensations and
Yeah.
rhomboids.
So one side was more gone.
Both.
Both. Oh yeah, because yours was right in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at my butt, it was so weird. It was like glute med literally went, it was like an indent.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
no muscle there. So I did specific training, EMS training for glute med, and then I did rhomboid training. And that was kind of my step.
Yeah, that's great. I remember, and this is the hard part, talking about the mind mapping and the neuroplastic part of this. Dude, if you would have told me years ago that part of my healing, like why I wasn't healing, was the way I was thinking, I would have flipped you off and I said, no way, dude, my back's broken. Like, I'll show you the injury. I'll point to exactly where it hurts. My mind and my emotions have nothing to do with this problem. And man, if only I could go back in time and meet my younger self and say, please listen, stop fighting this. And I love that you actually had techniques and technology. I white knuckled the neural remapping part. I had to go into a deep dive into one of the only things that to me was available and on my radar, which is somatic tracking, which is how you can actually walk your mind through the sensations that are showing up and start to tag and reframe them as safe again. And that took a lot of work. A
Yeah.
lot.
So basically your recipe for healing yourself was posture, alignment, movement, get the biomechanics right, then work on the neuro remapping to re-signal that we don't have to feel pain in this position or this movement. Was there a next phase, or was that it?
So that was it. It started off, I had to enter this problem with where I was at, which was thinking this was purely physical. And when I started, I think there was probably a lot of evidence that it was mostly physical. And that only took me so far. And right. And that's what led me to the nervous system. And then once I understood what somatic tracking is, how to actually lower the pain alarm bells and remind my body that my brain is kind of making a mistake here. There's no damage to be processing pain with. I then now teach both of these simultaneously. So when anybody comes into my world, I have the assumption that it's both. And if I'm going to hire your chances of success, I have to give you the physical tools. I'm going to assume this is a structural issue. And I'm also going to assume that you've got a brain attached to this body of yours. And I'm also going to assume it's neuroplastic based. So let's go through the mindset, resetting this. And let's go through the physicality reset to help regulate the nervous system, improve balance, improve function, while also giving your mind the tools to heal. Because most people, and rightfully so, this isn't a dig on PTs and doctors. You got only so much time with people. They're not going to sit down and hold your hand and walk you through your relationship with pain and what that has to do with this process. It's just go do this and go do that. So I'm trying to give people both ends of the spectrum right now, day one.
So when people come in to see you and they're suffering with maybe a similar issue, what is the timeline until they're feeling maybe not healed, but better, that it's not affecting every minute of their life?
Yeah, I'd say freedom from the prison of chronic pain actually happens relatively soon. Most people, 60 to 70% of people, feel better in their first month. However, getting out of pain is not really the challenge because the nervous system is highly responsive. Like, if you're anything like I was, I can show you a couple positions right now that would start to downregulate the pain response in the nervous system. For example, lying on your back with both legs over a couch or a chair de-stresses, takes the body out of load, and probably immediately provides support. So getting out of pain isn't the problem. It's staying out of pain. This is where skill and technique and practice come in. I tell everybody, give it a year. At the minimum, give this a year because I am not interested in giving you quick fixes. I can give you some routines that can lower symptom levels pretty quick. But if you don't actually make the lifestyle changes, if you don't learn how to prioritize your self-care and stick to a movement routine, it's just a question of like, well, how long do you want to feel better for? And that's a
Yeah.
really weird question to ask people who are in pain because the answer is obviously like forever. But when you're just stuck in my life sucks and it's miserable, I got to get out of pain, you're not thinking about this as what skills and tools can I learn? So I tell everybody a year. Give me a year and let's see what kind of progress we can make. I could give you a very blanket statement. It takes about 1 to 30 days to start eliciting a change with the nervous system and begin to learn how to downregulate, or for some people, upregulate that. From there, it takes about 2 to 3 months to actually start noticing a remodeling of the soft tissue, like the muscles starting to relax, lengthen, strengthen. And it takes about 3 to 6 months for these changes to really integrate into the deeper soft tissues like the fascia, like meaningful changes where we're making day over day progress without maybe needing to do our work every day. We're not clinging on to just the immediate benefits and then the time starts ticking until I go right back to feeling normal, the way I did before I started. So I could probably give you a ballpark of 3 to 6 months for really meaningful changes.
I love that. I love that. So what I heard was it's not going to work unless you do the work.
Period. Full stop. That's
So
it.
this is one of the most challenging things to do with health coaching and people in the medical field. It's like, hey, this is what you have to do to get better. Now go do it. You have to choose that. So there's some aspect of it that's even not even brain related, but it's like psychology related. Like, you got to be ready.
Yeah, and what makes your question loaded is I've seen people be in chronic pain for 20 to 30 years get results faster than those people who, like, this is their first time and they're 6 months in and they take 10 times, and I'm being very dramatic here, but they take 10 times longer because of the lack of ownership, the sabotage, the lack of prioritization, the unwillingness to actually change the lifestyle and the conditions that most likely led them to this place at all. So the timelines, man, I've been doing this for, it's been 16 years since I broke my back. I've been working with people intimately like this for 11 years. I still don't have a pulse on how long it's going to take you.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, if I could ask you this, do you see a place where you could stack modalities like what you do, your program, your way of approaching things with something like regenerative injections, PRP, stem cells, things like that? I see, I see in terms of the structural healing, huge benefits, and I've experienced them myself. Something like, someone starts with you, and then once the nervous system is downregulated 30 days in, you go get your injections. And then while that healing process is working, that's when you get the movement patterns, the lifestyle changes, and build in the rest of it. Might accelerate the
Yeah.
process.
Look, I think there's absolutely a world of integration, especially when we start to identify, hey, let's boost this structure's capacity to heal while we are addressing the whole. The biggest common denominator in everybody that comes to me is, man, they're grasping for straws. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this PT and this chiro. I bought this product online. I started this new diet. It's too much, man. And so if there's a fusion of our worlds, hell yes. But let's be very structured and strategic with how we are going to do this. Because when you're doing this, all these different things approach, and something works, great. I love that for you, but you don't know what you did and why it works. And if you're not having a strategy that really goes after one big variable at a time, you can't sustainably feel better. Was it like my work? Was it your work? We can probably make an argument it's probably both working hand in hand, but like, I want you to feel for what this work does, get a baseline of movement therapy, and then go get injections and notice, whoa, I've built the habit, I'm taking care of my body. Now let me get a little bit of more molecular assistance here, and hell yeah, now we're moving faster than I probably would, as opposed to get PRT, get injections, start my stuff at the same time, also get some massages too, and let's also get your acupuncturist to work on your body as well. It's too much, man. And
Yeah.
so the short answer is hell yes. I think there could be a great collaboration and fusion. The question is, how can we be very strategic so this actually works well long term for somebody?
No, I love that. I absolutely love that. So, and we might have to talk online about this later. But like we do have a need for because we see results, amazing results from our injections all the time, but we know that it could be better if the work was being done before and after as well.
Right.
like like this injection, yeah, it can probably restore the physical injury, but it's going to change your movement patterns. No. Are you going to be back in 6 months? Possibly, if you don't change how you're moving.
Yeah.
So it's part of a comprehensive solution. So we'll talk more about that at some
Yeah, I'd
point.
love that.
But yeah, so anything else that you want to share about your journey or your company, how people can access you, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, look, if you're listening to this episode on pain, you're probably used to trying a lot of things and a lot of things not working. I understand why your guard's up. And I want to do for your listeners what that posture therapist did for me, which is just come here. Like, just try it. I'm not asking anything big of you. I'm not going to ask for a commitment. I just want you to try my program for a week. That's all it is. Get down on the ground. Let me guide you through some of these movements. Let me teach you a little bit more about your body. If you've got chronic hip pain and I can help reveal, oh, what is this shoulder and knee and ankle doing on this side as well? my mission will be accomplished. If I can broaden your horizons, let's absolutely do that. So I'd recommend, if there's an interest, you don't have to be sold that this works. You don't have to be convinced. You just have to be willing to find out. Just try it. You can go to my website, painacademy.net. You can find me all over social media at Pain Academy. Let's just start with the basics of, let me show you how to move a little bit better, a little different, and we just take it from there one day at a time.
So do people have to come see you, or is this like a virtual thing you can do?
It's all online, because if I can't teach you how to move better in your own home, where you're at most of the time, what real meaningful progress are we going to make? So don't fly out to see me in person. I want you to log into the program before you start your nighttime binge watch, whatever it is that you do, love doing at night. Just try my program before that. And let me show you how to move from the comfort of your own home, so you don't have to rely on all of these other moving parts and pieces to start taking ownership and accountability for your health and body.
Yeah, I mean that is huge, and the reason it's huge is not what most people think, but the skill of a practitioner to help you reestablish movement patterns, remap your nervous system. If that can be done virtually, the skill level of that practitioner is extremely high.
Yeah.
Because anybody with a PT personal training certification can go show someone how to basically squat. Now, try showing 1,000 people how to squat through an online platform, and you're going to have injuries out the wazoo.
Yeah.
So I think it's key to highlight that, like, the scalability of what you're doing highlights your skill set.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, and I, like, what people are missing is information. And, why you would need a PT, a personal trainer, to learn how to squat for most people is because we've become so numb to what's going on with our body that we only feel restriction, limitation, and pain. And if I can guide you through how to actually re-access and feel your body, and not offshore that trust or judgment to somebody else who's outside of you, who could just have one of those 3-day weekend PT certs and he's teaching you how to move. Like, nobody knows your body better than you. You're the only person hardwired to it. So if I can teach you how to tap into what the hell is going on in your body, and let's actually regain function, you will move more fluidly, naturally, with based on what you can feel and access. And that's the goal. You just need to be guided on how to actually re-tap into your body here. That's it. And if all you're missing is information and guidance and structure, just learn the damn exercises.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Peak Performance Podcast. I'm Coach Kyle, here with Vinny from the Pain Academy.
That's how we got to say it now moving forward. I'll never say it normal again.
Well, thanks for tuning in. And if you want to find Vinny, we'll put his stuff in the show notes. And again, comment, like, post, ask us questions, and we'll do our best to respond to everyone. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.